Tonight, we are going to talk about the invisible structure surrounding our solar system. Not a planet, not a nebula, and not a black hole, but a vast cosmic bubble, almost impossible to see from Earth, stretching for hundreds of light years around us. From the ground, space feels open and endless. We look up and see stars scattered across the night sky, and it feels as if the sun is simply floating in an ordinary part of the Milky Way. But that may not be true. Our solar system is moving inside a giant region called the local bubble, a huge, low-density cavity in interstellar space. A cosmic wound carved into the galaxy by ancient supernovas. Long before humans existed, massive stars near our region of the Milky Way lived, burned, exploded, and died. Their blasts pushed gas and dust outward, hollowing out a vast bubble around the place where the sun now travels. And today, without seeing it, without feeling it, and without realizing it, Earth is moving through the inside of that ancient structure. The strange part is that the bubble is not empty. Its walls may be connected to nearby star-forming regions, where new stars are being born from material pushed outward by the deaths of older stars. So our solar system may be drifting through the inside of an ancient supernova scar, surrounded by the remains of stars that died millions of years before us. Tonight, the question is simple. What is the local bubble? And why does our solar system feel so lost inside it? Before we begin tonight's journey, subscribe to the channel if you want more calm space documentaries like this. Leave a like if you enjoy deep space mysteries, and write in the comments where you are watching from, and what time it is where you are right now. Tonight, you are watching the Just About Space channel, talking about our solar system is lost inside a 1,000 light-year bubble. To understand why our solar system feels lost inside a giant bubble, we first have to change the way we imagine space around us. Most of the time, we picture the solar system as something separate. The sun at the center, Mercury close to the heat, Venus shining in the inner light, Earth moving quietly through the habitable zone, Mars turning red and cold beyond us. Then, the asteroid belt, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and the distant icy objects beyond. This picture is useful. It helps us understand our local family of worlds. But it is not the whole picture, because the solar system is not floating in a blank, empty background. It is moving through a much larger environment, a galactic neighborhood, a region of interstellar space filled with thin gas, dust, magnetic fields, radiation, old stellar debris, and the invisible history of stars that lived and died before humanity ever looked up. From Earth, this is almost impossible to feel. The sky above us looks like a dark dome filled with stars. The sun rises. The planets move. The moon changes phase. The Milky Way appears as a pale river of light from dark places. Everything feels distant, but also strangely flat, as if the stars are simply scattered across the night. But the night sky is not a surface. It is a view through a structure. We are looking outward from inside the Milky Way, from inside one small region of one spiral arm, from inside a cavity in interstellar space that most people never notice. The solar system is not just in space, it is inside something, and that something is the local bubble. Before we understand the bubble itself, we have to understand why it is so hard to notice. If you are inside a room, you can see the walls. If you are inside a cave, you can feel the darkness around you. If you are inside a cloud, you can see the fog. But if you are inside a bubble, hundreds of light years across, there is no obvious wall in the sky. You cannot stand on Earth and see its edge. You cannot point at one bright line and say, "There is the boundary." You cannot feel it under your feet. The scale is too large, the material is too thin, and we are too deeply inside it. This is one of the strange problems of astronomy. Sometimes the hardest structures to understand are the ones surrounding us. A distant galaxy can be photographed from outside. A nebula can glow against the dark. A planet can move across the sky. But a huge, faint structure around the sun has to be mapped indirectly. Scientists must measure gas, dust, stars, motion, absorption, and distance. They have to reconstruct our surroundings, piece by piece. It is like trying to understand the shape of a valley while standing inside it at night. You do not see the whole valley at once. You infer it from the slopes, the air, the stars, and the distant horizon. The local bubble is like that. It is our local valley in the galaxy, a vast, low-density cavity in the interstellar medium, surrounding the sun and stretching for hundreds of light years. It is not empty in the absolute sense. Space is almost never truly empty. There are atoms, particles, radiation, dust grains, and magnetic fields. But compared with denser regions of interstellar space, the inside of the local bubble is thin, a hollowed-out region, a place where much of the gas and dust has been pushed away. And the reason may be violent. Long before the sun arrived in its current neighborhood, massive stars nearby lived short, bright lives. They burned through their fuel quickly. They released intense radiation and strong stellar winds. Then, some of them exploded as supernovas. These explosions sent shock waves outward, pushing gas and dust away from the blast zones. One explosion could carve a cavity. Many explosions over time could expand it, merge it, and shape it into something enormous. A bubble made by dead stars. That is the hidden environment around us. Not a peaceful, empty room. A scar, a region of the galaxy carved open by ancient stellar death. And now the solar system is moving inside it. This changes the emotional meaning of where we are. We often think of our cosmic address in simple layers. Earth is in the solar system. The solar system is in the Milky Way. The Milky Way is in the universe. But there are smaller hidden layers between those ideas. Earth is inside the heliosphere. The heliosphere is moving through interstellar space. That interstellar space is part of the local bubble. The local bubble sits inside the Orion region of the Milky Way. We live inside nested structures. A planet inside a solar wind bubble. A solar system inside a supernova bubble. A star inside a spiral galaxy. And each layer affects the way we understand home. The heliosphere is the bubble created by the sun's wind, protecting the planets from some of the surrounding interstellar environment. It moves with the sun like a protective envelope. Beyond it lies interstellar space, the material between stars. But even that interstellar space is not the same everywhere. Some regions are denser, some are dustier, some are hotter, some are colder, some are filled with clouds where stars can form. Some have been cleared by explosions. The solar system happens to be inside one of those cleared regions. That does not mean Earth is in immediate danger. The local bubble is not a monster approaching us. It is not a wall that will crash into Earth. It is not a nearby supernova happening now. It is the environment we are already inside. It is part of the background story of our cosmic neighborhood. But it matters because it reminds us that the sun is not traveling through ordinary nothingness. There may be no such thing as ordinary nothingness in the galaxy. Every region has a history. Every cloud has a source. Every cavity may be the aftermath of something powerful. When we say the solar system is lost inside a 1,000 light-year bubble, we do not mean it is literally lost in the way a person loses a path. The sun knows no direction. It simply moves through the galaxy, under gravity. But from a human point of view, the phrase feels right. The bubble is so large that the solar system is tiny inside it. Our planets, our spacecraft, our entire history, all exist inside a structure too large to experience directly. Voyager 1, one of humanity's farthest spacecraft, has only just entered interstellar space compared with the size of the solar system. But compared with the local bubble, Voyager has gone almost nowhere. The distance between Earth and the outer planets is enormous to us. The distance to the edge of the heliosphere is even more enormous. But the local bubble is hundreds of light years across. A light year itself is already almost impossible to imagine. The distance light travels in 1 year, moving faster than anything humans have ever built. Now multiply that by hundreds. That is the scale of the room around us. The solar system is not near the center of meaning inside this structure. It is simply inside it, moving through a vast cleared region of galactic space. Around us, the bubble stretches so far that the nearest stars, familiar constellations, and local clouds are all part of a larger three-dimensional environment we are still mapping. This is why the local bubble can feel more unsettling than a distant nebula. A nebula is out there. The local bubble is here. We are not observing it from the outside. We are living inside its aftermath. And because we are inside it, it becomes part of the story of Earth, even if it is not part of daily life. The atoms around the solar system, the pressure of interstellar material against the heliosphere, the nearby star-forming regions, the dust clouds around our galactic neighborhood, all of these belong to the environment through which the sun travels. The solar system is a moving island, but the sea around it has shape. That is the idea we have to hold before going deeper. The sun is not stationary. It is not fixed in one place while the galaxy moves around it. The sun orbits the center of the Milky Way, carrying Earth and all the planets along with it. Our entire solar system is moving through the galaxy at tremendous speed, crossing regions of interstellar space over millions of years. Right now, one of those regions is the local bubble. We are passengers inside a moving system, and the system itself is moving inside an ancient cavity. This is very different from how space feels from the ground. From Earth, the stars return in familiar patterns. Orion rises in winter. The Milky Way arches overhead. The planets follow predictable paths. The sky feels repeated, almost stable. But on galactic timescales, nothing is fixed. Stars drift, clouds move, bubbles expand, fade, and merge. The sun passes through different environments. The night sky is a temporary arrangement. The local bubble reminds us that even our neighborhood has a past. It was not always like this. Millions of years ago, the gas and dust around this region may have been arranged differently. Massive stars may have been born nearby. They may have lived fast and died violently. Their explosions may have carved the cavity. The Sunday may have entered or moved within this region later, traveling through the aftermath. The bubble we live in is not a permanent object with sharp walls and a fixed shape. It is a changing structure in a changing galaxy. But for us, its size makes it feel eternal. A human life is too short to watch it change. Civilizations are too brief to see the sun cross it. Even written history is nothing compared with the timescale of nearby stars and supernova remnants. So we experience the local bubble as a hidden stillness, a giant structure around us that does not move in any way we can feel. But it is not still. It is just moving on the clock of the galaxy. This is one of the reasons the subject works so well as a deep space mystery. It is not about a faraway object only. It is about our own position. It asks us to zoom out from Earth, then from the solar system, then from the nearby stars. Until we realize that our local space has architecture, we are inside a cosmic room whose walls are made from material pushed outward by dead stars. And that room may be connected to the birth of new stars. The same supernovas that helped hollow the bubble may have compressed gas along its edges. Dense regions can become places where new stars form. This means the local bubble is not only a graveyard of old stars, it may also be part of a cycle. Stars die, explosions push material outward, gas gathers along boundaries, and new stars begin to form in the compressed regions. Death shaping birth, a supernova scar becoming a nursery wall. That is the kind of cosmic connection that makes the galaxy feel alive with history. But from inside the solar system, none of it is obvious. Earth does not look like it is inside a supernova bubble. The sky does not carry a visible label. The sun does not rise differently because of it. Oceans do not glow with knowledge of our galactic environment. Most people can live their entire lives without ever hearing the name local bubble. And yet, it surrounds us. That is the strange power of scale. Something can be too large to notice. A mountain is obvious when you stand beside it. But if you are born on a mountain range so large that every horizon is part of it, you may not understand the whole shape until you map it from above. The local bubble is similar. It is not hidden because it is small. It is hidden because it is enormous, thin, and all around us. Our solar system is inside the thing we are trying to understand. That is why the first step is simply to stop imagining the sun as floating in pure emptiness. The sun is moving through a local interstellar environment. That environment has structure. That structure has a history. And that history may involve massive stars that died long before humans existed. When we look up at night, we see stars as points of light, but the spaces between those stars are not meaningless. They hold gas, dust, radiation, magnetic fields, old shock waves, ancient scars, and sometimes enormous bubbles. The local bubble is one of those hidden shapes in the darkness. It is not the whole Milky Way. It is not even the whole Orion region. But for the solar system, it is the immediate galactic room. It is the cavity around our cosmic neighborhood, the low-density region through which the sun travels, the invisible structure that makes our local space different from nearby denser regions. This means the solar system is not only a system of planets, it is also an object moving through an environment. That environment can change over time. It can press against the heliosphere differently. It can contain more or less dust. It can place the sun near clouds, cavities, or boundaries. It can connect our small planetary system to the larger life cycle of the Milky Way. The solar system may feel isolated, but it is embedded in the galaxy. Nothing is truly separate. Not Earth, not the sun, not even the space around us. The local bubble turns empty space into a place with a past. And once we understand that, the next question becomes unavoidable. What exactly is this bubble? How can something hundreds of light years wide surround us without being visible to the naked eye? What is it made of? Where are its walls? And how do scientists know we are inside it at all? To answer that, we have to move from the familiar solar system into the invisible structure around it, and begin to see the local bubble not as an empty name, but as the hidden shape of our cosmic neighborhood. The local bubble is not a bubble in the simple way we imagine one on Earth. It is not a round glass sphere. It is not a clean shell with a perfect edge. It is not floating separately in space like an object we could fly around and photograph from the outside. It is a vast, uneven cavity in the material, between stars. A huge region where the interstellar gas and dust around the sun is thinner than in many surrounding areas. It is like a hollowed-out pocket inside the Milky Way, not completely empty, but cleared compared with the denser clouds and regions around it. And we are inside that pocket. That is the strange part. The local bubble surrounds the solar system so completely that we cannot simply look at it from the outside. We have to map it from within. We have to measure the space around us in many directions. Compare the amount of dust and gas, study the light from nearby stars, and build a three-dimensional picture of the region the sun is traveling through. The result is not a simple empty sphere. It is a cosmic cavity, a stretched, irregular space carved into the interstellar medium. To understand what that means, we need to understand the interstellar medium itself. The space between stars is not truly empty. It may look empty from far away, but it contains extremely thin gas, tiny dust grains, magnetic fields, cosmic rays, and radiation. Compared with the air around Earth, this material is almost nothing. But over light years, even thin material matters. It can block starlight. It can glow. It can form clouds. It can collapse into new stars. It can be pushed by stellar winds and supernova explosions. The galaxy is not only stars separated by darkness, it is also the material between them. The local bubble is a region where that material has been thinned out, pushed away, and heated by ancient events. Inside the bubble, the gas density is low. Around the edges, the material can be thicker, because gas and dust that were pushed outward can collect near the walls. This is why the bubble is not only an empty hole. It is part of a larger pattern, a cavity inside, a boundary around it, and nearby regions where material has gathered. In simple words, the local bubble is the cleared-out space around the sun. But that simple sentence hides an enormous scale. The bubble stretches for hundreds of light years. In some directions, it reaches farther. In others, the boundary is closer. Its shape is irregular, because the galaxy is irregular. Explosions do not expand into a perfectly smooth environment. They move through clouds, gaps, magnetic fields, and uneven material. Some directions are easier to clear. Some are denser and resist the expansion. Over time, multiple supernova explosions can overlap, creating a larger and more complicated structure. So, the local bubble is not a perfect balloon. It is more like a carved cave in the galaxy. A cave whose walls are made of interstellar material. A cave so large that thousands of stars can exist in and around its neighborhood. A cave we did not notice directly, because we were born inside it. This is why the word bubble can be misleading. It sounds soft and harmless, but the origin of this bubble may have been violent. Massive stars likely exploded as supernovas, sending shockwaves through space. These shockwaves swept gas and dust outward. The interior became thinner and hotter. The surrounding material was compressed into shells, ridges, and boundaries. The bubble may be the fossil shape of ancient explosions. A supernova does not only destroy a star, it changes the space around it. When a massive star explodes, it releases an enormous amount of energy. The blast wave expands into the surrounding interstellar medium, pushing material away. If several massive stars explode in the same general region over millions of years, their bubbles can merge. A larger cavity forms. The inside becomes a low-density region. The outside may become a compressed shell where gas gathers. That is the kind of process that may have created the local bubble. Not one gentle event, but a sequence, a history of stellar death shaping the space where the sun now moves. This means the local bubble is both empty and full of meaning. Physically, it is less dense than many surrounding regions. Historically, it is rich with evidence of what happened before. It tells us that our neighborhood of the galaxy was not always quiet. It was affected by massive stars, stellar winds, explosions, and expanding shockwaves. The sun did not create the local bubble. The sun is traveling through it. That distinction matters. The sun creates the heliosphere, the smaller bubble of solar wind surrounding the solar system. But the local bubble is much larger. The heliosphere may stretch far beyond the planets, but it is tiny compared with a structure hundreds of light years across. The heliosphere is the sun's personal shield. The local bubble is the room that shield is moving through, a bubble inside a bubble. Earth inside the solar system inside the heliosphere inside the local bubble inside the Milky Way. This nested structure is one of the most important ideas in the video. It helps the viewer feel that space is not a blank emptiness. It has layers. Some are small enough for spacecraft to cross in human history. Some are so large that the sun takes millions of years to move through them. Some are shaped by one star. Others are shaped by the deaths of many stars. The local bubble belongs to that larger category. It is not built by planets. It is not built by the sun alone. It is built by the galaxy's life cycle. Stars are born from gas. Massive stars live quickly. They die violently. Their explosions push gas outward. That pushed gas can help shape new clouds. Those clouds can form new stars. The local bubble is part of this cycle, and we are living inside one of its old cavities. That is what makes it different from simply saying, we are in the Orion Arm. The Orion Arm is a broader galactic structure, a region of the Milky Way where stars and gas are arranged along a spiral feature. But the local bubble is more immediate. It is the carved-out local environment around the sun. It is the hidden cavity our solar system currently occupies. It is not the entire galactic neighborhood, but it shapes the space closest to us. And yet, if you step outside at night, you will not see it. You will see stars. You may see Orion. You may see the Milky Way. You may see planets, the moon, and perhaps a faint haze of distant starlight. But you will not see the bubble itself as a glowing wall. That is because much of the local bubble is defined by what is missing. Less gas, less dust, a lower density interior. Astronomy often studies absence this way. Sometimes the most important structure is not a bright object, but a region where material has been removed. A dark gap in a disk can reveal a planet. A low-density cavity can reveal old explosions. A missing pattern can reveal hidden motion. The local bubble is a structure of absence shaped by energy. It is a hole with a history. So how do scientists know it exists? They do not rely on one single clue. They use many. One clue comes from the way starlight is absorbed by dust and gas. When light from stars travels through interstellar material, some wavelengths can be absorbed or reddened. By measuring stars at known distances in different directions, astronomers can map where dust is thick and where it is thin. If nearby space has less dust in many directions, that suggests a local cavity. Another clue comes from the distribution of nearby interstellar clouds. The sun is not moving through a perfectly uniform region. There are small local clouds and streams of interstellar material near us, but they exist within a broader low-density environment. Mapping these clouds helps reveal the structure of the local region. Another clue comes from X-ray observations. Hot gas inside cavities created by supernovas can emit in X-rays, though interpreting this signal is complicated because there are other sources too, including interactions with the solar wind. Still, high-energy observations help scientists think of the local region as a hot, low-density bubble. Another clue comes from the positions and ages of nearby young stars and star-forming regions. If many young stellar regions lie near the edges of the bubble, that suggests the expanding shell may have helped compress gas there. In this view, the bubble is not just a hollow interior. Its walls are active boundaries where material gathers and where new stars can be born. Piece by piece, the invisible shape becomes clearer. Not perfectly, but clearly enough to know that the sun is inside a large local cavity. This is what makes the local bubble feel almost like a hidden landscape. It has an inside. It has edges. It has nearby clouds. It has a history. It may have connections to star formation around its boundary. But because the scale is so enormous, it does not feel like a landscape to us. It feels like ordinary space. That is the illusion. We mistake our local environment for normal because it is all we have ever known. But the galaxy is not the same everywhere. Some regions are dense with molecular clouds where stars form. Some are filled with hot ionized gas. Some contain old supernova remnants. Some are dusty. Some are cleared. Some are quiet for now because they were violent long ago. The local bubble belongs to that last kind of place, a quiet aftermath, a low-density region created by energy from dead stars. This gives the solar system a strange setting. We are not drifting through a random average piece of the Milky Way. We are moving through a cavity carved into the interstellar medium, surrounded by larger structures, nearby clouds, and the remains of ancient stellar events. Our cosmic neighborhood is not empty background. It is a shaped environment. And shaped environments have stories. The story of the local bubble likely begins with massive stars. These stars may have formed in groups. Massive stars do not live long compared with stars like the Sun. They burn hot, shine brightly, and end quickly. When they explode, they inject energy into the surrounding gas. One generation of massive stars can reshape an entire region of the galaxy. Their deaths can clear cavities, compress shells, and influence where the next generation of stars forms. This is one of the most important cycles in the Milky Way. Stars are born from gas. Stars return energy to gas. Gas is pushed, heated, compressed, and recycled. New stars form from the changed gas. The local bubble is a local example of that cycle. It is the Milky Way breathing through stellar life and death. That may sound poetic, but the physical idea is simple. Energy moves material. Explosions push gas. Gravity later gathers material again. The galaxy is constantly being shaped by these processes. It is not a static disk of stars. It is a dynamic environment where birth and death are connected across huge distances and long times. The Sun is caught inside that environment. Earth is caught with it. Every planet, moon, asteroid, comet, spacecraft, ocean, forest, and city is moving through the local bubble because the Sun is moving through it. We do not feel the bubble directly because the heliosphere stands between Earth and much of the surrounding interstellar material. But the larger context is still real. The solar system has a galactic weather around it, even if it changes on timescales too long for everyday experience. The local bubble is part of that galactic weather. Not weather like rain or wind on Earth, weather of gas density, dust, radiation, magnetic fields, cosmic rays, interstellar clouds. The pressure outside the heliosphere can change depending on what kind of interstellar material the Sun moves through. This does not mean the local bubble is an immediate threat, but it does mean our cosmic environment is not meaningless. The Sun's surroundings help define the boundary conditions of the solar system. The solar system has an inside and an outside. The local bubble is part of the outside, and because that outside was shaped by ancient supernovas, our outside has a violent past. This is why the bubble feels both calm and terrifying. Calm, because it is not exploding now. It is not a visible danger. Earth continues. The Sun shines, the planets move. Terrifying, because the room around us was carved by dead stars, and we live inside it without seeing the walls. The most unsettling structures are sometimes the ones that do not announce themselves. A black hole can be terrifying because it destroys. A supernova can be terrifying because it explodes. But the local bubble is terrifying in a quieter way. It tells us that even our empty space is an aftermath. The darkness around the Sun has memory. The next time you imagine the solar system, do not imagine it as a small model floating in nothing. Imagine it moving through a thin, hollow region inside the Milky Way. Around it are faint clouds, boundaries, and distant walls of material. Beyond those walls are denser regions of gas and dust. Along some of those edges, new stars may be forming, triggered or shaped by the same ancient events that cleared the bubble. The solar system is not at the center of everything. It is a tiny moving point inside a much larger scar. And the scale of that scar is the next problem, because saying hundreds of light years or about 1,000 light years across sounds impressive, but the words are too easy. They do not immediately make us feel the size. To understand why our solar system feels lost inside the local bubble, we have to measure the bubble against the things we already think are enormous. The planets, the edge of the heliosphere, Voyager, the nearest stars, the distance light itself can travel. Only then does the true scale begin to appear. The local bubble is not just bigger than the solar system. It is bigger in a way that almost breaks the meaning of nearby. That is where the scale begins to break down. Because the local bubble is not large in the way the solar system is large. It is large in a completely different category. Inside the solar system, distance already feels almost impossible. The moon is far enough that human beings needed rockets, planning, and courage just to reach it. Mars is so far away that even light takes minutes to cross the gap. Jupiter is hundreds of millions of kilometers beyond Earth. Neptune is so distant that sunlight is weak there, and one orbit around the Sun takes more than a human lifetime. To us, the solar system is enormous. But compared with the local bubble, the solar system is almost a point. That is the first step in understanding the bubble's true scale. We have to take the largest distances most people can imagine, and then realize they barely begin the story. The planets are close. The outer planets are close. Even the edge of the Sun's influence is close. The local bubble reaches across hundreds of light years. A light year is not a poetic word. It is a distance. It is how far light travels in 1 year, moving at about 300,000 kilometers every second. In 1 second, light could travel around Earth several times. In 1 minute, it travels almost unimaginably far. In 1 year, it crosses a distance so large that ordinary numbers stop feeling useful. Now imagine hundreds of those distances. That is the scale of the local bubble. When we say it is roughly 1,000 light years across, we are not describing a neat circle with a perfect diameter. The bubble is irregular. In some directions, the cavity reaches farther. In others, the walls are closer. But the phrase gives us the feeling of the structure. Our solar system is inside a galactic cavity so wide that light itself needs centuries to cross it. If light left one side of the bubble, it could take around 1,000 years to reach the other side. 1,000 years. That means a beam of light crossing the local bubble could begin its journey when human civilizations looked completely different, and only arrive after entire empires, languages, borders, and generations had passed. And light is the fastest thing in the universe. This is why the bubble is so hard to feel. Human distances are built around walking, driving, flying, and maybe launching spacecraft. But the local bubble belongs to a scale where even light has a travel time we can compare to history. The solar system feels huge because it is huge to us. The local bubble makes it disappear. Think of Voyager 1. It is one of the farthest human-made objects from Earth. It has traveled beyond the planets and entered interstellar space. That sounds like the edge of everything, and emotionally it feels that way. Voyager has left the familiar planetary region. It is moving through the darkness beyond the Sun's main family of worlds. But compared with the local bubble, Voyager has barely begun. It has not crossed our galactic room. It has not reached the bubble wall. It has not even traveled a meaningful fraction of a light year compared with the size of the bubble. Voyager is a human miracle. And still, on this scale, it is almost motionless. That contrast is important. The problem is not that our spacecraft are small achievements. They are incredible achievements. The problem is that the galaxy is so large that even incredible human achievements become tiny when placed inside it. The local bubble turns our farthest spacecraft into a speck inside a speck. It does the same to the planets. Neptune feels like the edge of the planetary solar system. Beyond Neptune are icy worlds, dwarf planets, scattered objects, and the distant outer regions. But all of that exists inside the Sun's local neighborhood. Even the outermost reaches of the solar system are still close compared with the distances between stars. The local bubble is not measured in astronomical units like planetary distances. It is measured in light years. That shift changes everything. An astronomical unit is the distance from Earth to the Sun. It is already huge. But 1 light year is more than 60,000 astronomical units. The nearest star system is more than 4 light years away. That means the gap from the Sun to the nearest stars is already many thousands of times larger than the distances between the planets. And the local bubble contains many such gaps. It is not just a shell around the Sun. It is a region big enough to include many nearby stars, clouds, and structures. The Sun is only one traveler inside it. Other stars move through or near it. Local interstellar clouds drift within it. Around its edges, gas and dust may gather into denser regions. Some nearby star-forming regions are connected to the bubble's larger structure. From far away, if we could see the local bubble clearly, the solar system would not look important by size. It would be a tiny point inside a vast hollow region. That is why the title says our solar system is lost inside it. Not because the Sun has no path, not because Earth is in danger, but because our entire world is so small compared with the structure around it, that our normal sense of location fails. We live inside something too large to see from within, and too large to cross with anything we have built. This is one of the deepest feelings in astronomy, the moment when nearby stops meaning close. The local bubble is local only by galactic standards. Compared with the whole Milky Way, it is part of our neighborhood. Compared with the distance to the center of the galaxy, it is small. Compared with the full disk of the Milky Way, it is a local feature. But compared with humans, planets, spacecraft, and history, it is enormous. Local does not mean small. Local does not mean reachable. Local does not mean understandable at a glance. It only means this is the region we happen to be inside. That is a humbling idea. The galaxy has layers of scale. Earth is large to a human. The solar system is enormous to Earth. The nearby stars are enormous compared with the solar system. The local bubble is enormous compared with the nearby path of our spacecraft. The Orion region is larger still. The Milky Way is larger than all of that. And beyond the Milky Way, other galaxies sit across millions of light years. The local bubble is not the biggest thing in the universe, but it is big enough to make our home feel hidden. It is the kind of structure that reveals how difficult cosmic maps really are. On a flat drawing, we can put a dot for the Sun and outline a bubble around it. It looks simple, but in reality, that outline represents a 3-dimensional cavity across hundreds of light years, with uneven walls, nearby clouds, and boundaries shaped by ancient explosions. The Sun is not sitting in the center of a clean circle. It is moving through a complex environment. A map makes it easy. Space makes it impossible to feel. That is why scale needs comparison. Imagine the entire solar system, from the Sun to Neptune, as a small circle on a page. Then imagine the distance to the nearest star as a much larger blank space around it. Now imagine the local bubble stretching far beyond that, wide enough that many nearby stars and clouds fit inside or along its boundaries. The solar system becomes almost invisible. Now zoom back to Earth. Every ocean, every mountain, every city, every person, every spacecraft ever launched. All of human history. All of it exists on one small planet, inside one small system, inside this enormous invisible cavity. That is the true scale we are talking about. The local bubble is not just a scientific structure. It is a reminder that our environment extends far beyond anything we can experience directly. We live on Earth, but Earth lives inside the solar system. The solar system lives inside the heliosphere. The heliosphere moves inside the local bubble. and the local bubble is a small feature inside the Milky Way. Each layer makes the previous layer feel smaller, but it also gives it context. The solar system may feel lost inside the bubble, but it is not meaningless. It is simply embedded. It belongs to a larger environment, just as Earth belongs to the solar system. The bubble does not erase the importance of the planets. It places them inside a deeper story. A story of stars, gas, explosions, and galactic motion. The size of the bubble also changes how we think about time. If a spacecraft crossed 1 light-year at the speeds our probes currently travel, it would take tens of thousands of years. Crossing hundreds of light-years would take timescales far beyond recorded history. Even reaching the nearest star with today's technology would be a civilization-scale challenge. Crossing the local bubble would be a challenge on a scale so large it feels almost mythological. But the sun does move through the galaxy. It does not cross the local bubble like a spacecraft trying to reach a destination. It moves naturally as part of its galactic orbit. Over millions of years, the sun passes through different parts of interstellar space. It may enter clouds, leave clouds, move through low-density cavities, and cross boundaries that would be invisible to life on Earth, except through subtle, cosmic effects. The sun is not trapped in the bubble. In a permanent sense, it is inside it, for now. For now, on galactic timescales, can mean a very long time. This is another strange part of scale. To humans, 1,000,000 years is almost impossible. To the galaxy, it is a short interval. The sun's journey through the Milky Way is measured over hundreds of millions of years. The local bubble's history is measured over millions of years. Human history is a blink inside that larger motion. We are noticing the room around us during one brief moment of the sun's travel. The bubble was here before humans understood stars. It may remain after our current civilizations are gone. It may change, fade, merge, or be reshaped by future stellar events. But on our timescale, it feels fixed. The walls of the local bubble are not walls like stone. They are regions where gas and dust become denser than inside the cavity. They may be uneven, broken, connected to other cavities, and linked to surrounding star-forming regions. If we could somehow see interstellar dust and gas in 3 dimensions, the bubble might look like a huge, irregular hollow, surrounded by glowing and dark structures, not like a perfect sphere. This matters because the bubble's size is not just a number, it is a shape, a 3-dimensional shape around our cosmic home. And because we are inside it, every direction in the sky is also a direction through the bubble. When we look toward one constellation, we may be looking through a thinner path of the cavity. When we look in another direction, we may be looking toward a nearer wall or denser material. The familiar constellations are not painted on a dome. They are markers in a real, uneven galactic environment. The sky becomes deeper when we understand that. Orion is not just a pattern of stars. The Milky Way is not just a pale band. The darkness between stars is not just darkness. It is the view through our local galactic cavity. This is why the local bubble can make the solar system feel lost. It removes the simple feeling that we are in ordinary space. It shows that our ordinary space is one region among many, shaped by forces far older and larger than Earth. The sun is moving through the remains of ancient events, and we only recently learned enough to map the shape around us. For most of human history, the bubble was completely unknown. People watched the stars, created constellations, built calendars, navigated oceans, and told stories about the heavens. They saw the lights, but not the cavity. They saw Orion, but not the full local environment. They saw the Milky Way, but not the hollow region around the sun. The bubble was always there, but scale kept it hidden. This is the same reason many cosmic structures remained unknown until modern astronomy. The universe does not reveal all scales to the eye. Some things are too small, some are too faint, some are too distant, some are too spread out. The local bubble belongs to the category of things too large and too thin to notice directly. It had to be discovered by mapping, by measuring, by connecting clues. That makes the local bubble feel less like an object and more like a hidden geography. A geography of low-density space. A geography of nearby clouds. A geography of old explosions. A geography where our solar system is only one moving point. And once we understand the size, the emotional tone of the story changes. At first, a bubble sounds almost gentle. Something round, soft, and harmless. But a 1,000 light-year bubble is not gentle in origin or scale. It is a cavity that may have required multiple massive stars to die. It is so wide that light needs centuries to cross it. It is so large that the solar system cannot meaningfully explore it with current spacecraft. It is so hidden that we live inside it without seeing it. That is not a small local feature. It is a cosmic environment, and we are inside it right now. This should make the viewer feel two things at once. Our way, because our neighborhood is larger and more structured than it seems, and unease, because that structure is an ancient supernova scar. The size alone is impressive, but the origin makes it darker. A hollow region hundreds of light years wide does not appear without energy. Something had to push the gas and dust away. Something had to heat the interior and shape the boundaries. Something had to carve the room. The likely answer is not peaceful. It is dead stars. That is where the next part of the story begins. The local bubble is not only huge, it was made. And to understand how something this large could be carved into the Milky Way, we have to go back millions of years, before human beings, before civilization, before anyone could watch the sky and know what was happening nearby. We have to imagine massive stars living close enough to shape our region of the galaxy. Stars far more massive than the Sun. Stars that burned quickly. Stars that ended violently. Stars whose deaths may have hollowed out the space around us. Because the 1,000 light-year bubble around the solar system may not be an empty room by accident. It may be the lasting echo of ancient supernovas. That is what makes the local bubble so strange. It is not just a large empty region around the Sun. It is not simply a quiet pocket of space where gas and dust happen to be thin. It may be the fossil shape of violence, a cavity carved into the Milky Way by massive stars that lived quickly, burned brightly, and died before humans ever existed. To understand the bubble, we have to go back millions of years, not to the beginning of the universe, not to the birth of the Milky Way, but to a much more local past, when the region around the Sun was different from the one we know today. The Sun was already traveling through the galaxy. Stars were moving. Clouds of gas and dust filled parts of the local interstellar medium. Massive stars formed in groups, shining with intense blue-white light. These stars were far larger and more powerful than the Sun. They burned through their fuel quickly, and because of that, their lives were short. A star like the Sun can shine for billions of years. A massive star may live only a few million. It spends its life pouring energy into the space around it. Its radiation heats nearby gas. Its stellar wind pushes material outward. Even before it explodes, a massive star can begin clearing a cavity around itself. It does not sit quietly inside the galaxy. It changes its environment. Then comes the final event, a supernova. When a massive star reaches the end of its life, its core can collapse, and the outer layers are blasted into space. In one of the most violent events a galaxy can produce, the star releases enormous energy. A shockwave races outward. Gas and dust are pushed away. Nearby material is heated, compressed, and rearranged. One supernova can change a region of space. But the local bubble may have required more than one. It may have been carved by a sequence of ancient supernovas, each one expanding into material already disturbed by the ones before it. The first explosion pushes gas away. The next expands into a space that is already partly cleared. Later explosions add more energy. Cavities overlap. Shock waves merge. The hollow region grows larger. Over time, a bubble forms. Not a perfect sphere, not a smooth shell, but a vast, irregular cavity in the interstellar medium. This is the important thing. The local bubble is not empty because nothing happened there. It is thin because something powerful happened there. The material was not simply missing, it was moved. Gas and dust that once filled the region may have been swept outward by the force of stellar winds and supernova blasts. The inside became lower in density. The surrounding regions became more compressed. The bubble's walls may contain some of the material pushed out from the interior. Along those edges, gas can gather, cool, and sometimes become dense enough to help form new stars. So the deaths of old stars may have helped shape the births of new ones. That is the cycle hidden inside the local bubble. Stars are born from gas. Massive stars die and push gas outward. The pushed gas collects along shells and boundaries. New stars can form from compressed material. The galaxy recycles itself through violence, and our solar system is moving inside one of those recycled regions. This makes the local bubble feel less like a place and more like an event that has not fully faded. The supernovas are over. The stars that exploded are gone. Their bright blasts were never seen by human eyes, if they happened before our species existed. But the shape they left remains around us, stretched across hundreds of light years. The explosion is gone. The cavity remains. That is a powerful idea, because it means our cosmic neighborhood is not defined only by where stars are now. It is also defined by stars that are no longer here. The sky we see today is not the full cast of characters. Some of the most important stars in the history of our region may already be dead. They shaped the space around us, then disappeared. The local bubble is their footprint, not on a planet, not on a surface, but in the structure of interstellar space itself. This is why ancient supernovas matter so much. A supernova is not only the death of one star, it is a galactic force. It injects energy into the interstellar medium. It spreads heavy elements into space. It creates shock waves. It can disturb clouds, trigger collapse, or tear material apart. It helps stir the galaxy and keep it from becoming a static disk of cold gas and stars. Without supernovas, galaxies would be very different. They are destructive, but they are also creative. They return material to space. They help shape future star formation. They carve bubbles, shells, and cavities. They make the galaxy uneven, alive with motion, and filled with history. The local bubble may be one of the closest examples of that process around us. And yet from Earth, we do not see it as a dramatic structure. We do not see a glowing blast wave crossing the sky. We do not see a clear wall. We do not see ancient explosions frozen like fireworks. We live in the quiet after. That quiet can be misleading. A battlefield can become silent long after the battle ends. A forest can grow over old ruins. A crater can soften with time. In the same way, a supernova-carved cavity can become part of the background environment. The violence fades into structure. The shock becomes geography. The local bubble is galactic geography made by stellar death. Imagine the region before the bubble formed. Instead of a large, low-density cavity, there may have been more gas and dust around the sun's future path. Clouds may have been thicker. The environment may have been more complex and dense. Then, massive stars nearby began changing it. Their winds pushed at the surrounding material. Their radiation heated it. Then, one by one, some exploded. Each explosion expanded outward. The shockwave swept up gas. The interior became hotter and thinner. The boundary became denser. The bubble grew. This did not happen in a single human lifetime. It unfolded across millions of years, on timescales too long for any observer on Earth to witness directly. The local bubble is not a frozen explosion. It is the result of a long chain of events spread across deep time. That timescale makes it feel almost unreal. A supernova itself can brighten quickly, but the bubble it helps create evolves slowly. The blast expands. It weakens. It collides with surrounding material. It merges with other structures. The energy spreads into the interstellar medium. What remains is not a flash, but a region. That is the difference between seeing an event and living inside its aftermath. We are not watching the supernovas. We are inside what they left behind. This also changes how we think about danger. The local bubble is not dangerous because it is about to explode. The ancient stars that carved it are already gone. Their blasts happened long ago. The bubble is not a countdown. It is a memory. The terrifying part is not immediate threat. It is the realization that our quiet neighborhood was shaped by events powerful enough to hollow out hundreds of light years of space. The calm around us has a violent origin. That is a theme that appears again and again in astronomy. Planets form from collisions. Moons can form from impacts. Elements are forged in stars. Heavy elements are spread by explosions. Stable systems can be the result of earlier chaos, and local space can be the scar left behind by dead stars. The local bubble fits that pattern perfectly. It tells us that home is not always peaceful in its origin. It can become peaceful later. The Sunday may not have formed inside the local bubble itself, and the exact path of the sun through this region is part of a larger galactic story. But today, the solar system is inside or near this low-density cavity, moving through a space shaped by those ancient events. We arrived in a room that was carved before us. That is a strange kind of inheritance. Earth inherits sunlight from the sun. The solar system inherits its current galactic environment from dead stars. When we look up at night, we are not only seeing the stars that exist now, we are also looking through a region shaped by stars that disappeared. The darkness between nearby stars is not just empty background. It is the inside of a structure made by past energy. And the walls of that structure may tell the next part of the story. If supernovas pushed gas and dust outward, that material did not vanish. It moved. It collected. It formed boundaries, ridges and denser regions around the cavity. In some places, these compressed regions may be connected to nearby star-forming clouds. That means the local bubble is not only a grave marker for dead stars, it may also be linked to the birthplaces of young stars nearby. This is one of the most beautiful and unsettling parts of the story. The deaths of massive stars may have helped prepare the conditions for new stars to form around the bubble. A dead star blows material outward. That material piles up. Gravity begins working. Cold regions become dense. New stars ignite, so the bubble is both a scar and a cradle. The inside is the hollow. The edge may be where creation continues. This is the kind of cycle that makes the Milky Way feel less like a static object and more like a living process, though not alive in the biological sense. It changes. It breathes through gas and gravity. It builds stars, destroys stars, and builds again from the remains. Our solar system is passing through one chapter of that process. The ancient supernovas that carved the local bubble may also have influenced the chemical and physical environment around us. Supernovas spread elements created inside stars. They enrich the interstellar medium. They send material outward into the galaxy, mixing what was once trapped inside stellar cores. The atoms in planets, oceans, and bodies come from earlier generations of stars. In that broad sense, all of us are connected to stellar death. But the local bubble makes that connection local. It says the space around the sun itself may have been shaped by nearby stellar deaths, not just some distant ancient event in the early galaxy, but explosions close enough in galactic terms, to carve the region around our current neighborhood. That is why the bubble feels personal. It is not only a fact about space, it is a fact about where we are. The sun is traveling through a cavity made by the deaths of stars we never saw. Earth is moving inside that cavity. Every human life happens inside that hidden structure. The more we zoom out, the more Earth feels like a tiny island inside an old storm system. The storm is gone, the shape remains, and we are inside the shape. This should not make the viewer imagine a perfect empty ball around the sun. The local bubble is complicated. Its boundaries are not sharp walls. Its interior contains local clouds. Its shape may connect with other nearby cavities. The interstellar medium is messy, and the maps improve as astronomers collect better data. The exact details can change as science improves. But the larger picture remains powerful. Our local region is not uniform. The sun is inside a low-density cavity. Ancient stellar activity likely helped create it. And the bubble connects our solar system to the life and death cycle of the Milky Way. This is the reason the local bubble is more interesting than a simple space fact. It turns location into history. It says that the place where the sun travels was shaped by stars that came before. It says the emptiness around us has an origin. It says the environment of Earth is part of a larger galactic story. The solar system is not isolated. It is embedded in the aftermath of other stars. That is a very different feeling from the simple classroom image of planets around the sun. That image is still true, but it is incomplete. The solar system has an outside. The outside has structure. The structure has a violent past, and that past may have created a bubble so large that our entire planetary system is lost inside it. This is why the ancient supernovas are not just background information. They are the reason the story exists. Without them, there may be no bubble. Without the bubble, our local space would be different. Without the cavity, the sun would not be traveling through this same low-density region. The supernovas are the invisible architects of our galactic room. They are gone, but their architecture remains. And that architecture may have been forming for millions of years. A group of massive stars explodes one after another. Each death adds energy. Each blast pushes the surrounding gas. The cavity grows larger. The boundaries become more defined. New star-forming regions appear along the edges. Eventually, long after the explosions, a star like the sun travels through the region, carrying a small blue planet with it. That planet develops life. That life becomes conscious. That consciousness learns to map the bubble. There is something almost impossible about that chain. Dead stars shape a cavity. The sun moves through it. Earth lives inside it. Humans discover it. The universe becomes aware of one of its own old scars. That is the emotional center of this chapter. The local bubble is not just around us. It is older than our awareness of it. It was carved without us. It existed before we knew our own galactic address. And now, by studying it, we are reading a local memory of the Milky Way. The next question is, what that memory looks like in space. If the bubble was carved by supernovas, then the pushed-out gas and dust must have gone somewhere. It should not be imagined as disappearing into nothing. It should form edges, walls, shells, and surrounding structures. Those walls may be the most important part of the bubble, because the inside tells us what was cleared. But the walls tell us where the cleared material went. They may also tell us where new stars are forming from the compressed remains of old stellar violence. So after understanding the dead stars that carved the cavity, we have to look toward the boundary, the invisible walls of the local bubble, the places where ancient destruction may have become new creation. That is where the walls of the local bubble become important. Because if ancient supernovas carved out the cavity around us, the gas and dust they pushed away did not simply disappear. Space is thin, but material still has to go somewhere. When shock waves move through the interstellar medium, They sweep material outward. They clear the inside. They compress the edges. They leave behind a region that is emptier in the middle and richer around the boundary. The local bubble is not only defined by its hollow interior, it is also defined by its walls. These walls are not solid. They are not surfaces a spacecraft could crash into like glass. They are regions where interstellar gas and dust become denser than they are inside the bubble. The boundary may be uneven, broken, and connected to other nearby structures. In some directions, the wall may be closer. In others, it may be farther away. The bubble is not a perfect sphere, and its walls are not perfect shells. But the idea is simple. Inside, thinner space. Around the edges, material that was pushed, gathered, and compressed. That is why the local bubble is so much more than an empty hole. Its walls may be where the story continues. When massive stars explode, their shock waves do more than clear cavities. They can also squeeze gas into denser layers. If the gas becomes dense enough, cold enough, and massive enough, gravity can begin pulling parts of it together. Over time, those dense regions can collapse into new stars. In this way, a supernova can be both an ending and a beginning. One generation of stars dies. Its explosions push gas outward. The gas gathers along a shell, and from that compressed material, another generation of stars may begin. This is the strange beauty of the local bubble. The inside is a scar, the wall may be a nursery, and the solar system is moving through the hollow left between them. From Earth, the walls of the bubble are invisible to the naked eye. You cannot look up and see a glowing circular border around the sun. You cannot see the cavity opening above your house. The boundary is too distant, too thin, and too spread out. It is not a sharp edge like the wall of a room. It is more like a gradual change in the material between stars. But scientists can map it. They look at the light from stars. They measure how much dust lies between us and those stars. They study distances, colors, and absorption. They build three-dimensional maps of nearby dust and gas. Slowly, the hidden structure begins to appear. Areas with less dust reveal the cavity, areas with more dust reveal the edges. What looks invisible in the sky becomes visible through measurement. This is one of the most powerful things about modern astronomy. It can turn darkness into geography. The walls of the local bubble are part of that geography. They are not walls in the human sense. They are boundaries in density. They are places where the galaxy remembers the pressure of ancient explosions. They are the outlines of a cavity drawn not with ink, but with gas and dust. And along those outlines, something remarkable may be happening. Nearby star-forming regions appear connected to the bubble's surface. This means many young stars around our local neighborhood may not be randomly placed. They may be linked to the expanding structure around us. The old supernovas that hollowed out the bubble may have pushed material into the places where new stars later formed. The dead stars may have helped build the next stars. This is not a gentle idea, but it is a powerful one. The galaxy often creates through disturbance. A quiet cloud can sit for a long time without collapsing. Then a shock wave passes through. The gas is compressed. Dense knots form. Gravity strengthens. A region that was once diffuse begins to gather. A star begins as a hidden collapse inside a cold cloud. So the wall of the local bubble may be more than a border. It may be a record of pressure. A place where old energy shaped new matter. A place where the Milky Way turned death into birth. This makes our local region feel very different. We are not simply inside a hollow space. We are inside a structure whose edges may be active with the consequences of ancient stellar death. The bubble is not only an old wound, it is part of the galaxy's cycle of recycling material. Stars do not keep their matter forever. They return it. Massive stars return it violently. Their explosions spread elements, heat gas, and drive shock waves. The material they push and enrich can eventually become part of future stars, planets, and perhaps even life. The atoms around us and the atoms inside us are part of this larger cycle. The local bubble gives that cosmic truth a local shape. It says the space around the sun has been sculpted by death, and around the edges of that sculpted space, new stars may be forming. That is why the walls matter. Without the walls, the local bubble would only be an absence. With the walls, it becomes a story, a cavity with a memory, a boundary with consequences, a scar with new light forming around it. Imagine the bubble from far outside. If we could see the dust, gas, and young stars in 3 dimensions, the sun would be a tiny point inside a vast hollow region. Around the hollow, denser material would form uneven arcs and sheets. Some of those regions would glow faintly in infrared or radio maps. Others would appear as dark clouds blocking background starlight. Young stars would gather in places where gas has become dense enough to collapse. The structure would not look clean. It would look messy, organic, torn open, a cavity with ragged walls. That messiness is important, because real space is not built like a diagram. The Milky Way is full of overlapping bubbles, shells, clouds, and streams. One supernova bubble can touch another. Cavities can open into each other. Clouds can be stretched by gravity and magnetic fields. The local bubble may connect to other nearby low-density regions. Its walls may not be closed everywhere. The bubble is a real structure, but not a perfect container. That makes the phrase, "inside a bubble," more mysterious. We are inside a bubble, but not like being inside a toy balloon. We are inside a huge, irregular region where the density of interstellar material is lower than around it, and where the boundary is shaped by a complicated history of explosions and galactic motion. It is more like living inside a hollowed-out cavern in fog. The walls are real, but they are distant, soft, uneven, and hard to see. This is why the solar system can feel lost inside it. If the wall were close and bright, it might feel like a place. But because it is faint and enormous, it feels almost impossible to locate. Our minds are not built to imagine a wall hundreds of light years away made of gas thinner than anything on Earth. We understand mountains, oceans, and clouds. We do not easily understand interstellar shells. And yet those shells are part of our environment. The nearest stars, the dust lanes, the nearby clouds, the young stellar regions, all exist inside or around this larger structure. The solar system is moving through the hollow interior, while the walls mark where the ancient violence pushed material outward. The inside tells us what was cleared. The walls tell us what was moved. This is the key difference. If we only focus on the empty interior, the local bubble feels like nothing. But if we focus on the walls, it becomes active. The missing gas did not vanish. It became part of surrounding structures. It may have helped shape the places where new stars are being born. The bubble is therefore not just a hole in the galaxy, it is a redistribution of matter. The galaxy did not lose material. It rearranged it. That rearrangement is one of the main ways galaxies evolve. Gas moves. Stars form. Massive stars die. Shock waves compress clouds. New stars form somewhere else. Over millions of years, the galaxy is constantly reshaped. The local bubble is a nearby example of this process, close enough to surround us, but large enough to be almost impossible to experience directly. This is why it feels so strange. The solar system is inside a structure that is both local and unreachable. Local, because it surrounds our region of the Milky Way. Unreachable, because its walls are hundreds of light years away. We can map them with telescopes long before we can ever travel to them. That is true for most of astronomy. Understanding comes before arrival. We knew the moon long before we walked on it. We knew galaxies before we could send anything beyond the solar system. We know the local bubble not by touching its wall, but by reading the light that passes through it. The wall is known through evidence: dust absorption, gas maps, stellar distances, the positions of young stars, the shape of nearby interstellar matter. Each clue is small alone, but together they reveal the hidden boundary around us. And the more we understand that boundary, the more the local bubble changes from a scientific term into a place. Not a place like Earth, with land and weather, but a place in the galactic sense, a region with structure, history, and relationship to its surroundings. The walls show where our local space meets the denser galaxy around it. They are the transition between the hollow interior and the richer clouds outside. That outside matters too, because beyond the bubble, the Milky Way is not empty. There are denser clouds, star-forming regions, dust lanes, and other structures. The bubble's wall is like the border between our cleared neighborhood and the more material-rich regions surrounding it. The sun is not moving through the densest part of the galaxy right now. It is traveling through a cavity. But the cavity has edges. And beyond those edges, the galaxy becomes different. This raises a quiet question. What would the solar system experience if it moved into a denser region? The answer is complicated, and not something to turn into simple fear. The heliosphere protects the solar system from much of the surrounding interstellar environment. But the pressure outside it can change. A denser cloud could compress the heliosphere. It could change how the solar wind interacts with interstellar material. It could alter the flow of dust and particles around the solar system. This does not mean disaster, but it means our galactic surroundings are not irrelevant. The walls of the local bubble remind us that the sun has an environment, and that environment can change over millions of years. Earth feels stable because human lives are short. But the solar system's journey through the galaxy is long. It may pass through cavities, clouds, and boundaries. It may move from one kind of interstellar weather into another. Right now, we are inside the local bubble. One day, on a timescale far beyond us, the Sunday may move into a different region. That thought makes the wall feel like more than a border. It becomes part of a future path. The solar system is not fixed inside the bubble forever. It moves. The bubble also evolves. The relationship between the sun and the bubble is temporary, though temporary in galactic language can mean millions of years. The sky feels permanent, but the galactic room is not. This is one of the themes that makes the local bubble so powerful as a documentary subject. It forces the viewer to think of the solar system as a traveler, not just planets orbiting the sun, but the whole system moving through a changing galaxy. The walls of the bubble are not just distant features. They are part of the landscape through which the sun travels. A landscape built from dead stars. A landscape where the edges may hold new stars. A landscape so huge, we mistake it for empty space. That is the emotional shape of this chapter. The wall is not visible, but it surrounds the meaning of the bubble. It tells us that the ancient explosions did not simply erase material. They sculpted it. They pushed it outward into boundaries. They may have triggered star birth. They left us inside a cavity whose edges are part of a larger cycle. The local bubble is not only a dead star scar, it is a dead star scar with living edges. That phrase captures the contradiction. The inside is low density because of destruction. The boundary may be dense enough for creation. The solar system drifts inside the quiet middle, surrounded by the consequences of both. When we imagine our position now, we should not imagine Earth alone in darkness. We should imagine Earth inside the sun's protective heliosphere. The heliosphere inside the local bubble. The local bubble surrounded by walls of swept-up gas and dust. Some of those walls connected to regions where young stars are forming. Beyond that, the broader Orion region and the spiral structure of the Milky Way. Home is layered, and the wall of the bubble is one of those layers. It is a boundary we cannot see with our eyes, but one that tells us our space is not ordinary. It tells us the sun is traveling through the hollowed remains of ancient stellar activity. It tells us that the darkness around us has shape. It tells us that even emptiness can have walls. And after understanding the walls, the next question becomes more personal. If the bubble has a shape and the solar system is inside it, then why are we here? Did the sun form inside this cavity? Did it enter later? Is it moving toward the wall? How long will it stay inside? The local bubble is not only around us, the sun is moving through it. And to understand what that means, we have to stop thinking of the solar system as fixed in place. We have to follow the sun as it travels through the galaxy, because the sun is not fixed. It does not sit still while the Milky Way turns around it. It is moving, carrying Earth, the planets, the moons, the asteroids, the comets, and every spacecraft with it. The entire solar system is traveling through the galaxy as one system, like a small island drifting through a much larger cosmic sea. From Earth, this motion is almost impossible to feel. The ground feels steady. The sun rises and sets. The stars return in familiar patterns. The seasons repeat. Our lives are built around cycles that make the sky feel stable. But this stability is local. It is the stability of Earth turning, Earth orbiting the sun, and the planets following their paths. On a larger scale, the whole solar system is moving through the Milky Way. And right now, that journey carries us through the local bubble. This is what makes the bubble feel so strange. It is not simply a container with the sun resting inside it. The sun is moving through it. The bubble has its own history, its own shape, and its own boundaries, while the solar system passes through the cavity like a traveler crossing a vast, invisible landscape. We are not parked inside the bubble, we are passing through it. But the journey is so slow compared with a human life that it feels motionless. The sun takes an enormous amount of time to orbit the center of the Milky Way. It moves with the stars of our galactic neighborhood, following the gravitational pull of the galaxy. During that journey, it does not move through identical space forever. The interstellar environment changes. There are thinner regions, denser clouds, dusty areas, hot gas, cooler gas, cavities, shells, and old supernova structures. The local bubble is one of those environments, a low-density cavity around our present location. But it is not guaranteed to be our environment forever. This is the first important idea. The solar system has a galactic weather, not weather like rain, wind, or storms on Earth. Galactic weather means the changing material around the sun as it moves through space. Gas density, dust, magnetic fields, charged particles, cosmic rays, and nearby interstellar clouds. These things change on timescales far longer than human history, but they are real. The sun carries its own protection through this environment. The heliosphere. The heliosphere is the large bubble created by the solar wind, the stream of charged particles flowing outward from the sun. This solar wind pushes against the surrounding interstellar material and creates a boundary around the solar system. Inside that boundary, the sun dominates the local particle environment. Outside it, interstellar space begins. But the heliosphere is not the same size and shape forever. It depends partly on the sun, and partly on what the sun is moving through. If the surrounding interstellar medium is thinner, the heliosphere may expand more easily. If the surrounding material is denser, the heliosphere can be compressed. If the sun moves into a different kind of cloud, the boundary conditions around the solar system can change. This does not mean instant danger. It does not mean the local bubble is threatening Earth. But it does mean the space around the solar system matters. The sun is not moving through nothing. It is moving through an environment that can press against its outer boundary. And right now, that environment belongs to the local bubble. Inside the bubble, the interstellar material is thinner than in many surrounding regions. This low-density environment may allow the heliosphere to exist under one set of conditions. But if the sun moves toward denser material, or eventually leaves the bubble, the surrounding pressure could change. The solar system would still be the solar system, but its outer boundary would respond. This is a quiet kind of cosmic motion. No one on Earth would watch the wall of the bubble approach across the sky. There would be no glowing border, no sudden crossing, no moment where the planets shake. The changes would unfold over immense time, across tens of thousands or millions of years. The sun would gradually move into regions with different gas and dust. The heliosphere would slowly adjust. The cosmic environment would change around the outer edge of our system, long before human senses could notice anything directly. That is why the local bubble is not a simple object in the sky. It is part of the sun's path, a chapter in the solar system's galactic journey. To understand this, imagine the sun not as the center of a drawing, but as a moving star. Around it are planets. Around those planets is the heliosphere. Around the heliosphere is local interstellar space. And around that is the larger cavity of the local bubble. The entire structure moves through the galaxy, while the galaxy itself continues rotating, forming stars, destroying stars, and reshaping its gas. The solar system is moving inside motion. That is the real picture. Everything is moving. Earth moves around the sun. The sun moves through the Milky Way. Nearby stars move too. Gas clouds drift, bubbles expand, fade, and merge. The galaxy slowly rearranges itself across deep time. The reason the sky feels fixed is not because it is fixed. It is because we are too brief to watch the largest changes happen. In a single human life, the stars appear almost permanent. In recorded history, constellations change only slightly. But over hundreds of thousands of years, the shapes of the constellations deform. Over millions of years, the sun travels through different regions of interstellar space. Over tens of millions of years, our local galactic neighborhood becomes a different place. The local bubble is part of that changing neighborhood. The Sunday may not have always been inside it. The someday may have entered it sometime in the past, or the bubble may have formed around a region the sun later passed through. The exact details of our path are complex, because the sun and the surrounding gas both move. But the meaning is simple. Our current cosmic environment is temporary on galactic timescales. Temporary does not mean short. It means not eternal. For us, the local bubble may feel like a permanent room because we cannot watch the sun cross it. But compared with the age of the sun, the bubble is a passing environment. The sun has traveled through the galaxy for billions of years. It has likely moved through many different kinds of interstellar surroundings. The local bubble is where we find ourselves now, not where the solar system must always be. This makes Earth feel both protected and exposed in a new way. Protected, because the sun carries its own bubble, the heliosphere, around the planets. Exposed, because that solar bubble moves through a larger galactic environment it does not fully control. The heliosphere is like a ship's magnetic sail in a cosmic sea. It pushes back against the surrounding medium, but the sea still matters. The pressure, density, and composition outside help shape the boundary. The local bubble is the sea we are currently sailing through. A thin sea, a sea hollowed by ancient supernovas, a sea with walls far beyond our reach. This also explains why the sun's motion matters for the future. If the solar system eventually moves into a denser interstellar cloud, the heliosphere could shrink. More interstellar material could reach deeper into the outer solar system. The flow of dust and particles could change. Cosmic ray levels near Earth could be affected in complicated ways, depending on the sun's activity and the surrounding medium. These possibilities are not simple predictions of catastrophe. They are reminders that Earth's environment extends beyond Earth. The planet is shielded by its atmosphere and magnetic field. The solar system is shaped by the solar wind. The solar wind is shaped by the surrounding interstellar medium. And the surrounding interstellar medium is part of the local bubble. Home is not one layer. Home is many layers working together. This is one of the most important emotional ideas in the story. When we say Earth is our home, we usually mean the ground, oceans, air, and life around us. But Earth's home includes the sun. The sun's home includes the solar system. The solar system's home includes the heliosphere. The heliosphere's home includes the local bubble. The local bubble's home is the Milky Way. We are inside a chain of environments. If one layer changes, the others may respond. Usually slowly, usually subtly, but not meaninglessly. The sun's journey also changes how we think about the bubble's walls. They are not just distant boundaries, they are part of the route ahead. The solar system may be moving through the cavity now, but over long enough timescales, it could approach different regions of the bubble, pass near local clouds, or eventually leave the cavity. The walls are not a decorative outline, they are the changing border of our local galactic room. We do not know them the way we know mountains or coastlines, but they are part of the landscape, a landscape of gas density, a landscape of dust, a landscape of ancient shockwaves, a landscape made by dead stars. The sun moves through that landscape with no awareness, carrying Earth along with it. That is why the phrase "lost inside" works so well. The solar system is not lost because it lacks an orbit. It is lost because the scale of the surrounding structure overwhelms our sense of place. We live on a small planet inside a system that is itself moving through a vast, invisible cavity. We know where we are only because astronomy has learned to map the dark. Without that mapping, the local bubble would remain unknown. And for almost all of human history, it was unknown. People knew the sun, they knew the moon, they knew the wandering planets, they knew bright stars and constellations, but they did not know the sun was traveling through a low-density cavity carved by ancient supernovas. That discovery required modern instruments, distance measurements, dust maps, gas observations, and the ability to think of the local galaxy in 3 dimensions. The bubble was not hidden by distance alone. It was hidden by perspective. We were inside it. This is why following the sun is so important. The local bubble is not just an object around us, it is an environment in time. It has a past because it was carved by ancient stars. It has a present because the solar system is inside it now. And it has a future because the sun will continue moving through the galaxy. The solar system is not a still photograph. It is a journey, and the local bubble is one enormous region on that journey. If we could speed up time, the scene would look completely different. The constellations would distort as stars moved. The sun would trace a long path through the galaxy. Nearby clouds would shift. The bubble's boundaries would evolve. Regions of gas would expand, cool, or compress. New stars might form along distant walls. Other massive stars elsewhere would explode and carve new cavities. The Milky Way would become a slow ocean of motion, and the sun would be one small boat crossing a hidden current. But at normal time, we see stillness. That stillness is an illusion created by scale. The local bubble is too large and too slow for us to experience directly, but not too large to shape our cosmic address. It tells us that the solar system has a location inside the galaxy more specific than just the Milky Way. We are inside a low-density cavity, near local clouds, surrounded by distant walls, in a region shaped by old supernovas. That is a much deeper address. Earth, solar system, heliosphere, local bubble, Milky Way, universe. Each line makes the next one feel larger, and each line makes Earth feel more fragile. Not fragile because the bubble is attacking us. Fragile because our world exists inside structures we cannot control. Structures so large that our entire history is only a moment inside them. The sun's motion through the local bubble also reminds us that the sky we see is temporary. The stars around us are not permanent neighbors. The local interstellar clouds are not permanent surroundings. The bubble itself is not a permanent room. Everything belongs to a flow of galactic time. One day, the solar system's environment will be different. The sun will be elsewhere in the galaxy. The local bubble may no longer look the way it does now. Other stars will shape other cavities. New supernovas will create new stars. The Milky Way will continue rearranging the material between its stars, and Earth, if it still exists in any recognizable form, will be carried along through that changing environment. This is the quiet terror of galactic motion. Nothing has to explode near us for the setting to change. Motion alone is enough. Time alone is enough. The sun keeps moving, and the galaxy around it is not uniform. So when we talk about the local bubble, we are not talking about a static bubble drawn around the solar system forever. We are talking about the current region of a much longer path. The sun entered or found itself within this hollowed space. It moves through it. Eventually, the relationship will change. The bubble is our present galactic room, not our eternal one. This sets up the next question. If the sun is moving through the local bubble, then what surrounds the bubble? What happens beyond the walls? Is the space outside denser, darker, dustier, more active? Are there clouds where stars are being born? Are there other bubbles carved by other dead stars? The only way to understand the bubble fully is to look beyond it. Because a cavity only makes sense when we understand what it is carved into. The local bubble is the hollow around us. But outside the hollow, the Milky Way continues. And beyond the walls of our invisible room, the galaxy may be far less empty than it feels from Earth. That is the next step in the journey, because the local bubble only feels strange when we compare it with what lies outside it. If the bubble is a low-density cavity, then the space beyond its walls is not simply more of the same. It can be richer, thicker, darker, dustier, colder, and more active. The bubble is one kind of environment. The galaxy outside it contains many others. From Earth, all of this is hidden behind the simplicity of the night sky. The stars look like points. The darkness looks like nothing. But between those points of light, the Milky Way is filled with structure. There are clouds of gas. There are lanes of dust. There are regions where stars are being born. There are shells and bubbles carved by older stars. There are hot cavities, cold clouds, and invisible magnetic fields. There are places where space is thin, and places where it is thick enough for gravity to slowly gather new suns. The local bubble is only one room in a much larger house. Outside its walls, the Milky Way continues. And the difference matters. Inside the local bubble, the interstellar material around the sun is relatively thin. That does not mean empty, but it means the region has been cleared compared with denser parts of the galaxy. Outside the bubble, gas and dust can become more concentrated. The boundary itself may contain swept-up material. Beyond it, there may be larger clouds and nearby star-forming regions connected to the same galactic cycle that created the bubble. This is why the walls are not just an edge. They are a transition, a passage from hollow space into richer interstellar territory. If you could somehow travel outward from the sun, past the heliosphere, through the thin interior of the local bubble and toward one of its denser boundaries, you would not find a solid wall. Instead, the environment would gradually change. Dust would become more common. Gas density could rise. The light from background stars might become more reddened or blocked. The space ahead would begin to feel less like a hollow cavity and more like the living material of the Milky Way. Not alive in the biological sense, but active, changing, capable of forming stars. That is the important contrast. The inside of the local bubble is mostly aftermath. The outside can be preparation. Inside, old explosions cleared the space. Outside, compressed material can gather, cool, and become dense enough to collapse. This is one of the deepest cycles in the galaxy. Stars die, and their deaths disturb the gas. That gas moves outward. It piles up in new places. Some of those places become nurseries for new stars. The bubble is not separate from this cycle, it is part of it. The hollow interior and the denser surroundings belong to the same story. A supernova does not only leave emptiness, it pushes matter into new forms. Beyond the local bubble, the Milky Way contains dark molecular clouds. These clouds are cold, dense regions of gas and dust where stars can form. They may appear as dark patches against the bright background of the Milky Way because they block light from stars behind them. Inside them, gravity can slowly take over. Dense cores collapse. Protostars form. Disks appear. Planets may one day grow from those disks. In other words, outside our hollow room, the galaxy continues building new solar systems. That thought changes the feeling of the bubble. We are inside a cleared region, but around us are places where the next generation of stars may be forming. The Sun and Earth are moving through the aftermath of old stars, while nearby clouds may be preparing future stars. We are between death and birth. That is one of the reasons the local bubble feels so cinematic. It places the solar system inside a story larger than itself. We are not only in the Milky Way, we are inside a cavity created by the dead, surrounded by regions where the future may be forming. But from Earth, the outside of the bubble does not announce itself. The dense clouds and star-forming regions are far away by human standards. Their light may be faint, hidden, or visible only in wavelengths our eyes cannot see. Infrared astronomy can peer through dust. Radio astronomy can trace gas. X-ray observations can reveal hot plasma. Modern surveys can map dust in 3 dimensions. But the human eye sees only fragments. This is why the galaxy looked so simple for most of human history. We saw lights. We did not see the gas between them. We saw constellations. We did not see the cavities and walls. We saw the Milky Way as a glowing band. We did not see the local bubble our sun was moving through. Only recently have we begun to understand that nearby space has a shape, and outside that shape the galaxy is not uniform. There may be other bubbles too. The local bubble is not the only cavity in the Milky Way. Massive stars across the galaxy create shells, superbubbles, and low-density regions when their winds and supernovas push material outward. Some cavities overlap, some connect, some fade over time. The interstellar medium can look like a foam of bubbles, walls, clouds, and tunnels, especially in regions affected by many massive stars. The local bubble may be one bubble among many, a nearby hollow in a galaxy full of hollows. That makes the outside even more complex. It is not simply dense space surrounding one empty sphere. It is an irregular network of interstellar structures. In one direction, the bubble may open toward another low-density region. In another, it may face denser dust. In another, it may connect to clouds or shells shaped by other stellar events. The galaxy around us is a layered, uneven environment. The more we learn, the less space looks blank. This is important for the viewer because it shifts the mystery from one object to one environment. The local bubble is not a lonely phenomenon. It is part of the Milky Way's larger structure. It is a local example of how stars shape the space between stars. Its walls, neighbors, and surrounding clouds are all part of the same galactic ecology. The word ecology may sound unusual for space, but the idea is useful. In a forest, one organism dies and its material returns to the soil. The soil feeds new growth. The forest changes over time. In the galaxy, stars form from gas, live, die, and return energy and material to space. Their deaths shape the gas from which new stars form. It is not life, but it is a cycle. The local bubble is part of that cycle. Outside the bubble, the cycle continues. The sun is traveling through the quiet interior, but the walls and surrounding regions remind us that the Milky Way is still active. It is not finished. New stars are being born. Old stars are dying. Gas is being pushed, heated, compressed, and recycled. The galaxy is not a museum of stars. It is a moving system of matter and energy. And Earth is inside it. This is where the scale becomes emotional again. We often imagine Earth as isolated because the distances are so large. But isolation is not the same as separation. Earth is distant from these galactic structures, but it is still inside the same environment. The sun moves through the Milky Way. The heliosphere interacts with local interstellar material. The bubble around us was carved by stars. The regions outside the bubble may form new stars. Our home is part of a galactic process. It is not outside the story. It is inside one chapter of it. If the solar system were outside the local bubble, its surroundings might be different. It could move through denser interstellar material. The heliosphere might be compressed. There might be more dust entering the outer solar system. The boundary between solar wind and interstellar space might shift. The night sky might not look dramatically different to human eyes, but the invisible environment around the sun could change. This does not mean the bubble is a shield. In a simple way, it does not mean life on Earth exists only because of the local bubble. But it does show that our galactic surroundings are real. The solar system is not floating in a timeless vacuum. It moves through changing regions, and those regions have different properties. Inside the bubble, we are in one kind of space. Outside the bubble, there are others. That makes the question, where are we, much deeper than it seems. We are not just a certain distance from the galactic center. We are not just in the Orion region. We are not just near certain stars. We are inside a low-density cavity, near boundaries of swept-up gas and dust, surrounded by a larger network of clouds, shells, and star-forming regions. Our address is three-dimensional, and most of it is invisible. This is why the outside of the local bubble matters so much. It gives the bubble meaning. A hollow only matters because there is material around it. A cavity only exists because something was removed from somewhere. The walls and outside regions show what the bubble is carved into. They show that the local bubble is not a separate object, but a feature inside the interstellar medium, a hollow in the galaxy's material, a wound in the gas, a room made by explosions, a quiet place surrounded by the restless Milky Way. The word outside also reminds us that the local bubble is temporary. The sun is moving. The bubble is evolving. Its walls are not permanent monuments. Over millions of years, the surrounding gas can shift, cool, mix, or be struck by new shockwaves. Future supernovas in other regions could reshape nearby space. The cavity may merge with other structures or fade into the background. Galactic environments do not remain fixed forever. One day, the Sunday may no longer be inside this same bubble, or the bubble may no longer have the same shape. That future is far beyond human planning, but it matters for the feeling of the story. The local bubble is not the eternal home of the solar system. It is our current galactic room, inherited from ancient events and crossed by the sun's motion. Outside its walls are other rooms, other clouds, other histories. The Milky Way is filled with hidden geography, and the sun is traveling through it. This makes the solar system feel smaller, but also more connected. The bubble does not trap us in a literal sense. It locates us. It says that the space around the sun is part of a larger map. Beyond that map are other structures, and beyond those structures are the spiral features of the galaxy. We are lost only because the map is so vast. But we are not nowhere. We are inside a specific place. A hollow surrounded by the material of future stars. That may be the most important image for this chapter. The solar system sits inside the quiet interior of a giant cavity. Around the cavity, gas and dust gather in walls and clouds. Some of those clouds may be linked to star formation. Beyond them, the Milky Way continues with more bubbles, more clouds, more stars, and more darkness. The bubble is a border between our quiet local space and the more crowded galaxy beyond. When we look at the night sky, the outside is hidden in every direction. Some of it appears as dark dust lanes. Some appears as glowing nebulae. Some is invisible gas traced only by instruments. Some is young stars forming along distant structures. But all of it belongs to the same galactic environment that surrounds the sun. The darkness is not empty. It is layered. And beyond our layer, there are more layers. This is why the local bubble can feel terrifying without being a direct threat. It reveals how little of our surroundings we can sense. We live inside a huge cavity, but we do not see it. Outside the cavity, denser regions and star-forming clouds exist, but we do not feel them. The solar system moves through the galaxy, but we experience stillness. Our entire sense of place depends on instruments, maps, and imagination. Without them, the room around us is invisible. With them, Earth becomes a tiny world inside a vast hidden architecture. The next question is the natural one. If the space outside the bubble is different, and if the sun's local environment can change, then could any of this matter for Earth? Could the local bubble affect our planet? Could the density of interstellar space change the heliosphere? Could the sun's movement through different galactic environments influence cosmic rays, dust, or the outer edge of the solar system? We have to be careful with that question because it is easy to turn it into fear. The local bubble is not an approaching disaster. It is not something that will suddenly harm Earth. But the question is still worth asking because it reminds us that Earth's environment does not end at the atmosphere, or even at Neptune. Earth exists inside layers of protection and exposure. The atmosphere, the magnetic field, the solar wind, the heliosphere, the local bubble, the Milky Way. And if those outer layers change, even subtly, then our cosmic surroundings become part of the story of home. This is where the question becomes more personal. Could the local bubble affect Earth? The careful answer is yes, but not in the simple, frightening way people might imagine. The local bubble is not a storm about to hit us. It is not a wall of fire. It is not a nearby supernova blast racing toward Earth. It is the large interstellar environment our solar system is already moving through. Most of the time, its effects are indirect, subtle, and filtered through the sun's own protective bubble. But indirect does not mean meaningless. Earth is protected by many layers. The atmosphere protects the surface from space directly. The magnetic field helps guide charged particles around the planet. The sun creates the heliosphere, a huge region shaped by the solar wind. And beyond that, the solar system moves through the local interstellar medium. The local bubble is part of that outer environment. So Earth is not only sitting under the sky, Earth is inside a chain of shields and surroundings. The atmosphere, the magnetic field, the solar wind, the heliosphere, interstellar space, the local bubble, the Milky Way. Each layer matters in a different way. The local bubble does not decide the weather tomorrow. It does not control the tides. It does not change day and night. But it helps define the kind of interstellar environment pressing against the outside of the heliosphere. And the heliosphere is the outer shield of the solar system. That is the connection, not direct, but real. The heliosphere is created by the sun's solar wind, which flows outward in every direction. This wind carries charged particles away from the sun and pushes into the material between stars. At some distance, the solar wind weakens enough that the surrounding interstellar medium becomes important. There, a boundary forms between the sun's influence and the galaxy's environment. This boundary is not a hard shell. It is a moving, changing interaction. The size and shape of the heliosphere depend on the strength of the solar wind and the pressure of the surrounding interstellar material. If the sun moves through a thinner region, the heliosphere may behave one way. If the sun moves through denser material, it may be compressed. If the interstellar magnetic field changes, the shape may shift. If the sun's activity changes, the boundary changes too. The solar system is not sealed off from the galaxy. It is interacting with it. The local bubble matters because its interior is relatively thin compared with denser regions outside. The sun is moving through this lower density cavity, and that helps define the conditions around the heliosphere right now. If the sun were traveling through a much denser cloud, the heliosphere could be smaller or shaped differently. This does not mean Earth would suddenly be exposed. The atmosphere and magnetic field would still matter. The sun would still dominate the inner solar system. But the outer boundary of our system could change. More interstellar dust or particles could enter the outer regions. Cosmic ray conditions could shift. The interaction between solar wind and interstellar material could become different. These are subtle space environment effects, not dramatic movie disasters. Still, they remind us that Earth's environment reaches farther than we usually think. When we think of Earth's safety, we often think locally. We think of the atmosphere, temperature, oceans, climate, and sunlight. But Earth also exists inside the sun's magnetic environment. And the sun's magnetic environment exists inside the galaxy. The local bubble is one part of that galactic setting. This makes the idea of home much larger. Home is not just the ground beneath us. It is also the invisible structure around the solar system. The local bubble may also affect how we think about cosmic rays. Cosmic rays are high-energy particles moving through space. Some come from the sun, but many come from outside the solar system, from energetic events in the galaxy, such as supernovas and other powerful sources. The heliosphere helps modulate how many galactic cosmic rays reach the inner solar system. If the surrounding interstellar environment changes, the heliosphere can change. If the heliosphere changes, the flow of cosmic rays reaching Earth can also change. Again, this is not something to describe as instant danger. Earth has its own protections, and cosmic ray levels are shaped by many factors, including solar activity. But on long timescales, the solar system's galactic environment can become part of the background conditions Earth experiences. That is why the local bubble is interesting. It places Earth inside a larger cosmic weather system, very slow, very faint, but real. There is also dust. Interstellar dust grains move through the galaxy, and some can enter the solar system. Most of this is not something humans notice. Tiny grains do not rain down in a dramatic way. But scientifically, dust tells us about the material around the sun. It is part of the flow between the solar system and the galaxy. Inside the local bubble, there is less dust and gas than in denser regions. Outside it, there may be more. If the sun moves through different environments over millions of years, the amount and type of interstellar material around the solar system can change. This could affect the outer heliosphere, the flow of particles, and the way the solar system interacts with its surroundings. The key idea is not fear. The key idea is connection. Earth is connected to the sun. The sun is connected to the heliosphere. The heliosphere is connected to the local interstellar medium. The local interstellar medium is connected to the local bubble, and the local bubble is connected to ancient supernovas and the structure of the Milky Way. A chain of cosmic relationships reaches all the way from dead stars to the space around Earth. That is the quiet power of this subject. The local bubble may not change your daily life, but it changes the story of where daily life happens. We are not living in a sealed room. We are living in a moving system inside a larger galactic cavity. This also means that the solar system's current calm is partly environmental. We exist inside a relatively thin region of interstellar space. The sun's protective bubble is moving through that region. If the sun entered a denser cloud far in the future, the outer conditions of the solar system could become different. Not necessarily catastrophic, but different. That word matters. Different. Not always dangerous. Not always dramatic. But different enough to study. Astronomy often begins with tiny differences. A slight dimming of starlight can reveal a planet. A small shift in a spectrum can reveal motion. A faint dust map can reveal a cavity hundreds of light years wide. In the same way, subtle changes in the sun's surroundings can teach us about how our solar system interacts with the galaxy. The local bubble is part of that lesson. It teaches us that space is not a uniform emptiness. The area around the solar system has properties: density, temperature, dust, magnetic fields, radiation, history, and because the sun moves, those properties are part of a journey. This is why the question, could it affect Earth, has to be answered with patience. The local bubble is not a direct surface-level force like sunlight or gravity from the moon. It does not make oceans rise and fall. It does not create seasons. It does not control Earth's atmosphere in a simple way. But it is part of the outer environment surrounding the sun. And the outer environment helps shape the heliosphere. And the heliosphere is part of the protection of the solar system. So yes, the local bubble matters. But it matters as context, as background, as the galactic room around our solar shield. This kind of influence is hard to feel, because humans are built for immediate causes. We understand fire because it burns. We understand rain because it falls. We understand wind because it moves against our skin. But the local bubble operates on scales too large and too slow for sensation. Its influence is not a sound, a light, or a pressure we can feel. It is a condition, a setting, a boundary around the story. That can make it seem unimportant, but settings shape stories all the time. An island, a desert, a forest, and an ocean all create different conditions for life. Even if they do not act like single events, the local bubble is the setting of the solar system inside the galaxy. It is not the main character, but it defines the surrounding world. The sun carries Earth through this setting, and we are only now learning how to describe it. This makes the local bubble one of the strangest kinds of cosmic discovery. It is not a thing we can visit easily. It is not a star with a bright light. It is not a nebula glowing in a telescope. It is an environment revealed through measurement, a structure that becomes real only when we map enough of the invisible. But once we know it is there, the solar system feels different. The planets no longer seem to orbit inside simple darkness. They orbit inside a solar bubble, which itself moves through a supernova-carved cavity. The sun becomes not only our star, but a traveler through the remains of other stars. Earth becomes not only a planet, but a world carried through galactic history. This is not something to fear. It is something to understand. The local bubble also reminds us that danger and protection in space are layered. A nearby supernova would be dangerous if it happened close enough. But the ancient supernovas that formed the bubble happened long ago. Their immediate danger is gone. What remains is structure. The bubble is not the explosion. It is the aftermath. That distinction is important. The local bubble does not mean Earth is currently inside a supernova blast. It means Earth is inside a region that may have been shaped by supernovas in the past. The blast faded. The cavity stayed. That is why the story is eerie rather than urgent. It is not about something that will happen tomorrow. It is about something that already happened, and the fact that we live inside the shape it left behind. In that way, the local bubble is like an ancient crater too large to see. If you live inside a crater hundreds of kilometers across, you may not notice the rim. The landscape around you feels normal. Only from maps and measurements do you realize the ground has a larger history. The local bubble is similar, except the crater is made of interstellar gas, and the impact was not a rock, but the deaths of massive stars. We live inside the aftermath, and the aftermath may quietly shape the outer space around us. This changes the emotional meaning of Earth's safety. Earth is not protected because the universe is gentle. Earth is protected because it sits inside layers that work together, at least for now. The atmosphere blocks much. The magnetic field guides charged particles. The sun creates the heliosphere. The local bubble provides the surrounding interstellar conditions. The Milky Way contains the larger environment. A living planet is not just a planet. It is a planet inside a system inside a galaxy. If any layer were radically different, the story could change. That does not mean life is fragile in every way. Life on Earth has survived enormous changes. But it does mean the background conditions of habitability are larger than Earth alone. The cosmic neighborhood matters, even when its influence is quiet. This is why studying the local bubble is part of studying our home. Not because it replaces geology, biology, or climate, but because it expands the frame. It tells us what kind of galactic environment the sun is traveling through while Earth lives around it. It tells us that our local interstellar space has a past. It tells us that nearby dead stars helped shape the room outside the heliosphere. It tells us that Earth's story is nested inside a story of stellar death and galactic motion. That is a much bigger home than most people imagine. A home with walls we cannot see. A home made partly from ancient explosions. A home that moves. And once we understand that, the local bubble stops being only a scientific label. It becomes a reminder that our neighborhood is stranger than it looks. The night sky may seem calm. The stars may seem fixed. The darkness may seem empty. But around the solar system is a vast invisible structure. And outside that structure are denser clouds, new stars, and the larger machinery of the Milky Way. Our surroundings are not simple. They only look simple from the ground. This is where the next part of the story begins, because the local bubble does not just affect how we think about Earth's environment. It changes how we think about our entire cosmic neighborhood. The sun is not traveling through ordinary space. Nearby stars are not scattered randomly in a blank room. The darkness around us is not meaningless. Our neighborhood is a hidden landscape of cavities, clouds, walls, and ancient scars. And the more we look at it, the stranger it becomes. Because our cosmic neighborhood is not the simple open space it seems to be from Earth. From the ground, the nearby universe feels familiar. We know the sun, we know the moon, we know the bright planets. We know the constellations that return with the seasons. We see Orion, the Big Dipper, Cassiopeia, the Milky Way, and the slow movement of bright points across the night. It feels like a stable sky, a familiar sky, a sky that has always been there. But this familiar view hides almost everything. The stars we see are not sitting on a dark surface. They are scattered through a three-dimensional region of the galaxy. Some are close, some are far. Some are young, some are old. Some are moving toward us, some are moving away. Some were born in clouds. Some have already changed their surroundings. Some will one day die violently and reshape the space around them. The night sky looks calm because distance hides motion. It looks simple because our eyes compress depth. It looks empty because most of the material between stars is too faint to see. But the local galaxy is not simple. Around the solar system, there are thin clouds of interstellar gas. There are dust structures too faint for human eyes. There are magnetic fields threading through space. There are flows of particles and radiation. There are traces of old supernovas. There are nearby star-forming regions. There are cavities and walls, shells and bubbles, regions cleared by dead stars and regions preparing to form new ones. The local bubble is only one part of this hidden neighborhood. It is the room we are inside. But the room is connected to a much larger building, and that building is stranger than it looks. One of the reasons our neighborhood feels strange is that the sun is not alone in a quiet, empty zone. It is surrounded by other stars, but not in a neat pattern. The nearest stars are scattered irregularly through space, each with its own motion. Over long timescales, the stellar neighborhood changes. A star that is close now was farther away in the past. Another star may pass closer in the future. The constellations we know are temporary patterns made by perspective. Orion is not a real object in space. It is a line of sight. The stars that form its familiar shape are at different distances, moving in different directions, with different histories. From another star system, the pattern would look completely different. The sky that feels ancient to us is not a permanent structure. It is a temporary view from Earth's current position inside the galaxy. The local bubble adds another layer to that illusion. Not only are the constellations temporary, but the space between and around them has shape. When we look toward different parts of the sky, we are looking through different parts of our local cavity, through different amounts of gas and dust, toward different walls, clouds, and distant structures. The dark background is not the same in every direction. Some directions pass through thinner local space. Some point toward denser material. Some look toward regions where stars are being born. Some look through the old scars of stellar death. The sky is not a flat ceiling. It is a map we are inside. And because we are inside it, our perspective is limited. This is why modern astronomy has had to rebuild our sense of place. The old view of the solar system was centered on the sun and planets. Then, we learned the sun is one star among billions in the Milky Way. Then we learned the Milky Way itself is one galaxy among countless galaxies. But between the solar system and the full galaxy is another level of structure, the local interstellar environment. That level is where the local bubble lives. It tells us that even our small part of the Milky Way has hidden geography. A geography made not of land, but of gas density. Not of rivers, but of interstellar flows. Not of mountains, but of dust clouds. Not of craters, but of supernova cavities. This is the strange neighborhood around us. And we are only beginning to map it clearly. Another reason the neighborhood feels strange is that the sun is moving through material that is not uniform. Around the heliosphere, there are local interstellar clouds. These are small regions of gas moving through the broader cavity. The sun is not simply inside pure empty space. It is passing through a local environment with its own flows and boundaries. The heliosphere is like a bubble inside this surrounding material. The local bubble is the larger cavity around that. And the smaller local clouds are like drifting weather inside the cavity. This creates a layered picture that is very different from the simple idea of empty space. The solar system is not inside a blank vacuum. It is inside a solar wind bubble, surrounded by local interstellar material, inside a larger supernova carved bubble, inside the Milky Way. Each scale has structure. Each scale has motion. Each scale has a history. The neighborhood is also strange because the quietness around us may be temporary. The sun's surroundings have changed before and will change again. On galactic timescales, the solar system may pass through different clouds and regions. The heliosphere may expand or shrink depending on the pressure outside it. The amount of dust and particles entering the outer solar system can change. The night sky itself will slowly change as nearby stars move. The universe around us is not frozen. It only looks frozen because we are brief. This is one of the most important ideas in the entire story. Human beings experience the universe in short moments. A lifetime is long to a person, but tiny compared with the movement of stars and gas. The local bubble may have taken millions of years to form. The Sun takes hundreds of millions of years to orbit the galaxy. Nearby stars shift slowly from our point of view. The bubble's walls evolve on timescales far beyond civilization, so the sky looks still. But stillness is an illusion of scale. If we could watch millions of years pass in minutes, the neighborhood would become alive. Stars would drift, clouds would move, the sun would travel. The heliosphere would change shape. The local bubble would not be a fixed room, but a changing cavity in a moving galaxy. Old structures would fade, new shocks would travel, new stars would form along compressed gas. The familiar sky would become a flowing landscape. That is why our neighborhood is stranger than it looks. It has motion hidden inside stillness. It has structure hidden inside darkness. It has history hidden inside emptiness. The local bubble also makes us rethink what nearby means. 1,000 light-years sounds small compared with the size of the Milky Way, but it is enormous compared with the solar system. Nearby star-forming regions may be close in galactic terms, but unreachable in any human sense. The walls of the bubble are part of our local environment, but no spacecraft could reach them in any meaningful time frame with current technology. So our neighborhood is local, but not close. It is around us, but not reachable. It is part of home, but far beyond experience. That contradiction is one of the deepest feelings of astronomy. The universe has neighborhoods that are still impossibly vast. The local bubble is our local room, but the room is hundreds of light years wide. The nearest stars are our neighbors, but light takes years to travel between them. The Milky Way is our galaxy, but it is so large that the sun's entire lifetime covers only part of its journey through it. Home is enormous, and we are tiny inside it. But tiny does not mean disconnected. The atoms in Earth, the sun's motion, the heliosphere, the local bubble, the old supernovas, the nearby clouds, all belong to one connected cosmic story. The galaxy is not a collection of isolated lights. It is a system where stars and gas shape one another. The local bubble is evidence of that connection. Dead stars shape the space around us. Their explosions pushed material outward. That material may help form new stars. The sun now travels inside the cavity they left. Earth exists inside the sun's traveling system, and we are able to understand the process because light from stars carries information across the darkness. This is what makes the neighborhood feel meaningful, even though it is not centered on us. The local bubble was not made for Earth. The galaxy did not carve a cavity so life could appear here. The sun is not sitting in a special throne inside the bubble. But our presence inside this structure lets us learn something about how galaxies work. We are not the purpose of the local bubble. We are witnesses inside it. That is a powerful difference. A witness does not need to be central to matter. The solar system may be a tiny point inside a vast cavity, but from that tiny point, consciousness has learned to map the surrounding darkness. We can measure dust. We can study starlight. We can reconstruct old supernovas. We can detect the shape of a structure too large to see from inside. That is one of the most remarkable things about being human in a strange neighborhood. We are small enough to be hidden inside the bubble, but aware enough to know the bubble is there. This knowledge changes the feeling of the night sky. The next time we look up, the darkness should not feel empty. It should feel layered. Somewhere beyond the visible stars are local clouds. Beyond them are the walls of the bubble. Along those walls may be regions where gas has been compressed. Beyond that are other structures of the Milky Way, other cavities, other clouds, other star-forming regions, other old scars. Every direction is a depth. Every star is a point inside a moving map. Every dark region may contain hidden gas, dust, and history. The sky is not only beautiful, it is complicated. And that complexity is what makes our neighborhood stranger than it looks. Another strange part is that the local bubble may connect death and birth around us. We live inside a cavity made by old stellar deaths, while many nearby young stars may be associated with material along its surface. This means our local neighborhood is not simply old or new, it is both. It contains the aftermath of ancient explosions and the beginnings of future stars. The sun is middle-aged compared with those young stars. Earth is ancient compared with human life, but young compared with the universe. The bubble is old compared with civilization, but young compared with the Milky Way. Every object has its own clock. This mixture of timescales makes the neighborhood feel almost impossible to hold in the mind. Some processes happen in seconds. A supernova brightens quickly. Some happen over thousands of years. A shockwave expands and fades. Some happen over millions of years. A bubble grows and changes. Some happen over billions of years. A star like the sun lives, moves, and slowly evolves. We live in one tiny slice of all those clocks. And from that slice, we try to understand the whole. That is why the local bubble is such a good reminder of humility. It shows that even near the sun, there are structures we did not know for most of human history. We had to build better instruments and better maps just to understand the room around us. If our immediate galactic neighborhood can hide a structure hundreds of light years across, then how much more is hidden on larger scales? The universe is not only vast, it is subtle. It can hide enormous things in plain sight. The local bubble was hidden not because it was far away, but because we were inside it. This may be the strangest kind of hidden thing. Something surrounding you so completely that you cannot see its full shape without stepping outside yourself through measurement and imagination. Astronomy is how we step outside. Not physically, but mentally. A telescope, a dust map, a star catalogue, a spectrum, a spacecraft measurement. All of these let us rebuild the view from a perspective we cannot occupy. We cannot leave the local bubble and look back at it from far away, but we can use evidence to imagine that outside view. We can create a map of the invisible. That is how the neighborhood becomes real, not through direct sight, through understanding. And once it becomes real, the solar system feels different. It no longer seems like a finished model, surrounded by empty blackness. It becomes a moving structure inside a larger moving structure. Earth becomes a planet inside a planetary system, inside a solar wind bubble, inside an old supernova cavity, inside a spiral galaxy. That is the true address, and it is much stranger than the simple one. The final strangeness is emotional. The local bubble makes our home feel both protected and exposed, both special and ordinary, both tiny and connected. Protected, because the sun carries its own heliosphere, and we live inside a relatively thin local cavity. Exposed, because the solar system still moves through the galaxy, and its surroundings can change. Special, because this is our exact cosmic environment. Ordinary, because bubbles and cavities may be common in galaxies shaped by massive stars. We are not in the center of the universe, but we are in a real place, a place with history, a place with shape, a place carved by dead stars. That is enough. The universe does not need to put us at the center for our location to be extraordinary. It is extraordinary because every location has a story, and this one is ours. Our story includes Earth, the Sun, the planets, the heliosphere, the local bubble, and the Milky Way. It includes the stars we see and the dead stars we do not. It includes the visible sky and the invisible structure behind it. The neighborhood is stranger than it looks because the visible part is only the surface. The real neighborhood is hidden in depth, motion, and history. And this brings us toward the final idea of the journey. If the solar system is inside a supernova-carved bubble, and if that bubble is part of a larger galactic cycle, then our home is not just a place in space. It is a place inside an ancient scar, a quiet region shaped by explosions we never saw, a hollow where the sun now travels with Earth, a structure so large that our entire civilization exists inside it without feeling its walls. The final question is not only what the local bubble is, it is what this bubble tells us about the solar system itself. Because the more we understand the cavity around us, the more we realize that our solar system is not floating in ordinary space. It is moving through the remains of ancient stellar death. And that may be the most haunting truth of all. Our solar system is moving through the remains of ancient stellar death, not in a dramatic way that we can see from Earth, not through fire, not through a glowing war, not through a visible storm in the night sky, but through a vast, quiet cavity in the Milky Way, shaped by events so powerful that they changed the space between stars. The local bubble is not just a place around us, it is a memory written into gas, dust, distance, and absence. When we first imagine the solar system, we usually imagine the sun and its planets alone in darkness. We imagine a small family of worlds: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. We imagine the planets moving through empty space, surrounded by stars that seem far away and separate. But now that picture feels incomplete. The planets are not moving through ordinary emptiness. They are moving with the sun through a larger galactic structure. Earth is not only inside the solar system is inside the heliosphere. The heliosphere is inside the local bubble, and the local bubble is inside the Milky Way. Each layer makes home larger and stranger. The most unsettling part is that the bubble around us was probably not made peacefully. It may have been carved by massive stars that lived and died long before human beings existed. These stars burned quickly, exploded violently, and pushed gas and dust outward. Their shock waves hollowed out a low-density cavity, and their deaths helped create the room of space through which the sun now travels. We live inside an ancient supernova scar. That sentence changes the feeling of the night sky, because the darkness around us is not just darkness, it is the inside of an old wound in the galaxy. The stars that carved it are gone. Their explosions are over. Their bright deaths faded millions of years ago. But the space they changed remains. The gas they pushed away helped form the walls. The material along those walls may be connected to regions where new stars are born. The inside became thin and quiet. The edges became richer and more complex. So the local bubble is both an ending and a beginning. Inside it is the aftermath of dead stars. Along its boundaries may be the conditions for new stars. And in the middle of this enormous structure, the sun carries Earth. This is what makes the solar system feel lost inside it. Not lost because we do not know where we are. Not lost because the sun has no path. But lost because the structure around us is so large that our entire world becomes a tiny point inside it. 1,000 light years across is not a distance we can truly feel. It is a distance light itself needs centuries to cross. It is a distance far beyond every spacecraft we have ever built. It is a distance that turns the solar system into something almost invisible. Voyager has crossed into interstellar space, but compared with the local bubble, it has barely moved. Neptune feels distant to us, but it is still unimaginably close compared with the scale of the bubble. Even the outer edge of the heliosphere is only the beginning of the larger room around us. The bubble makes our largest achievements feel small, but it also gives them context, because every spacecraft, every planet, every comet, and every human life exists inside this hidden galactic environment. We do not feel the walls, we do not see the cavity, We do not wake up aware that the sun is moving through the remains of ancient supernovas, but it is happening anyway. That is one of the quiet truths of astronomy. The most important structures are not always visible. Some are too faint. Some are too large. Some surround us so completely that we need maps to understand them. The local bubble was hidden in plain sight because we were inside it. For most of human history, people looked at the stars and saw patterns. They saw heroes, animals, gods, hunters, rivers, and stories. They learned the seasons from the sky. They navigated with stars. They measured time with the sun and moon. But they did not know that the space around the sun had been hollowed out by dead stars. The bubble was always there, but we did not have the tools to see its shape. Now, by mapping dust, gas, starlight, and nearby young stars, we can begin to understand our local cosmic room. We can see that the sun is not traveling through a random empty patch of the Milky Way. It is inside a cavity, a low-density region, a structure with walls, neighbors, and a violent origin. And this changes what home means. Home is not only Earth. Home is not only the solar system. Home is also the environment the solar system moves through. The air above us, the magnetic field around Earth, the solar wind around the planets, the heliosphere around the sun, and the local bubble around all of it. These are layers of the same story. We are protected by some layers, exposed through others, and carried through all of them. The local bubble is not an immediate danger. It is not something to fear like a coming disaster. It is not a supernova happening now. It is the quiet remnant of events that already happened. But that does not make it meaningless. It tells us that our surroundings have a past. It tells us that the solar system has a galactic environment. It tells us that even empty-looking space can be shaped by history. The space around us remembers what happened before us. That may be the deepest message of this journey. The universe is full of memory. A crater remembers an impact. A planet's orbit remembers gravity. A nebula remembers a dying star. A galaxy's shape remembers motion. And the local bubble remembers ancient explosions. Not with words, not with images, but with structure. With low-density space, with swept-up gas, with walls of dust, with nearby star-forming regions, with a vast cavity that holds the sun inside it. This makes the solar system feel more fragile, but also more connected. Fragile because we are tiny inside structures we cannot control. Connected because our world is not separate from the life cycle of the galaxy. The atoms in Earth came from earlier stars. The space around the sun was shaped by other stars. The future stars near our region may be born from material compressed by older deaths. The Milky Way is not a still background. It is a system of birth, death, motion, and return. And our solar system is traveling through one small chapter of that system. That chapter is the local bubble, a quiet hollow in the galaxy, a supernova-carved cavity, a room hundreds of light years across, a place too large to see from inside, but close enough to define our cosmic neighborhood. This is why the local bubble is so powerful as a mystery. It does not threaten Earth with a single dramatic event. It does not hide a monster or a planet waiting to appear. Instead, it reveals that the ordinary darkness around us is not ordinary at all. It is shaped. It has edges. It has a history. It was made by stars that no longer exist. The terror is not that something is coming. The terror is realizing what already happened here, before humans, before civilization, before telescopes, before anyone could name the stars. Massive stars near our region of the galaxy lived and died, and their deaths helped hollow out the space we now call home. We arrived after the violence. We live in the silence after the blast. That silence is what makes the story calm and eerie at the same time. The local bubble does not roar. It does not glow above us. It does not shake the planets. It simply surrounds us as an invisible leftover of ancient power. And because it is invisible, it makes the night sky deeper. The dark areas between stars are no longer empty gaps. They are directions through a hidden landscape. Some directions lead through thinner local space, some toward denser walls, some toward clouds where stars may form, some through regions affected by old explosions. Every direction has depth. Every patch of darkness has context. Every familiar constellation floats inside a much larger map. That is the final transformation of the video. The solar system is no longer just a small family of planets in space. It is a moving system inside a galactic environment shaped by dead stars. Earth is no longer just a world under a sky. It is a world carried through an ancient scar in the Milky Way. And once we know that, space feels different. The sun feels different. The darkness feels different. Even home feels different. Because home is not a simple location. Home is an outcome of many layers working together. Earth stayed warm because of the sun. Earth stayed protected because of its atmosphere and magnetic field. The planets stay inside the sun's gravity. The solar system moves inside the heliosphere. And the heliosphere moves through the local bubble. A tiny living world, carried inside a moving star system, carried inside a cavity carved by stars that died long ago. That is where we are, not outside the story of the galaxy, inside it. The local bubble reminds us that the Milky Way has shaped us in ways too large and slow to feel. The galaxy is not only a place we look at from Earth, it is the environment we are moving through right now. Its gas, dust, stars, explosions and cavities form the larger setting of our lives. We do not see the walls of the bubble, but we live inside them. We do not remember the supernovas, but their aftermath surrounds us. We do not feel the sun's galactic motion, but it carries us forward every moment. This is the strange truth of our cosmic address. We are not simply on Earth. We are not simply around the sun. We are inside a hidden structure hundreds of light years wide, a structure made by the deaths of ancient stars. And perhaps that is why the solar system feels so lost inside it. Because the more we understand where we are, the more we realize how much larger home really is. The solar system is small. The bubble is huge. The Milky Way is larger still. And yet, from one small planet inside all of this, we have begun to map the invisible room around us. That may be the most beautiful part. The local bubble was not visible to the human eye, but human curiosity found it anyway. We used starlight, dust, motion, and distance to reveal a structure that surrounds us completely. We learned that our neighborhood is not empty. We learned that our local darkness has a shape. We learned that the space around the sun is part of an ancient cycle of stellar death and new star formation. We learned that home has hidden walls, and those walls were made by the galaxy itself. So the next time you look up at the night sky, imagine more than stars. Imagine the solar system moving silently through a vast hollow region. Imagine the sun carrying Earth through the remains of old supernovas. Imagine invisible walls of gas and dust hundreds of light years away. Imagine new stars forming along distant boundaries. Imagine a bubble so large that light needs centuries to cross it. And then remember that you are inside it. Every breath, every night, every sunrise, every quiet moment on Earth. All of it happens inside the local bubble, a giant, invisible structure. A supernova scar, a cosmic room carved into the Milky Way, and our solar system is lost inside it. Thank you for watching this journey through the hidden neighborhood around our sun. If you enjoyed this calm exploration of deep space and the secret structures around our solar system, subscribe to the channel for more space documentaries like this. Leave a like if you want more long journeys through the mysteries of the Milky Way. And write in the comments what impossible space question you want to explore next. Tonight, you are watching the Just About Space channel, talking about our solar system is lost inside a 1,000 light-year bubble. Sleep well and keep looking up. Good night.